Oh, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes. There are one or two who are new to the whole process of Immanuel Prayer, so I would like to at least mention what the process is like. So gratitude and a connection with God is a place that helps us to be open, help us to have capacity to face what life brings. And so based on that, the Immanuel approach in prayer, we always start with an interaction, either with God or a appreciative moment that you have connected with. Say you sat on your deck and you saw this beautiful sunset. It's a way that you experience God not directly, but through a future of beauty, a future of people, or a circumstance in your life that happens that you might have experienced God there. So those are places that we begin with prayer. And once connected there, most of my facilitating is to help the recipient to go deeper into experiencing God that way, asking what God might have as He had brought this memory to mind, and asking, you can hear me asking, Lord, what else do you have today for Cindy? What else? Pour all your grace upon her that you have prepared for her today. And when appropriate and when she actually experiences different emotions, especially when it's unpleasant emotions, I always also want to make sure that that person is connected to that experience of God or the experience of the appreciation before we try to figure out how this unpleasant emotion is impacting her, and then asking God to show her what He has for her through bringing up this emotion. So that's kind of how the process will go. And then afterwards, we would like us, here are some, let me just keep one. So what you can do as an audience watching and observing a session, the handout will give you a way for you to focus so you don't feel like, oh, there's so much stuff going on, I don't know what to pay attention to. So the most important thing is pay attention to what is highlighted to you. What catches your attention? It might be the recipient's experience. It might be how God might be responding to her. It might be how the experience you're hearing resonate with some things that you have been experiencing yourself. And also to observe how I am interacting with the recipient, how I facilitate. So the sheet that you have give you sort of an idea of how we will debrief after you have observed our session. So anything else you think? Okay. So everybody has a sheet. Okay.
So just from my perspective, I feel like I'm going to go on a trip, and I don't know quite where we're going to go, but this is my driver. And so I feel my first goal is to connect. The last time that we were together, we talked about a snow globe, and that was a real surprising thing for me. And thank you, Elizabeth, for taking notes for me. And in that experience, there were two things. One was security, and one was kind of controlling. Those are the two things that I kind of came away with. So I went back to a devotion that was from yesterday, and I want to read it to you from Jesus Calling, that really spoke to me. And then I looked back in my notebook and found a time of connection that could be used today. I'll read it to you. About a time when my counselor, Andy Ross, was just trying to grow capacity, and he said, you just need to spend a little more time with the Lord, just getting to know each other. Yes. And where that led. And it all kind of pertained. After I read this, I thought, oh, that reminds me of, and so I looked that up, so I'll share it. And if the Lord wants to use it, fine. Understanding will never bring you peace. That's why I have instructed you to trust in me, not in your own understanding. Human beings have a voracious appetite for trying to figure things out in order to gain a sense of mastery over their lives. But the world presents you with an endless series of problems. As soon as you master one set, another pops up to challenge you. The relief you have anticipated is short-lived. Soon your mind is gearing up again, searching for understanding, mastery, instead of seeking me, your master. The wisest of all men, Solomon, could never think his way through to peace. His vast understanding resulted in feelings of futility rather than in fulfillment. Finally, he lost his way and succumbed to the will of his wives by worshiping idols. My peace is not an elusive goal hidden at the center of some complicated maze. Actually, you are always enveloped in peace, which is inherent in my presence. As you look to me, you gain awareness of this precious peace. She's so good. Okay, Jesus plays horse. Today, Lord, we won't push to work so hard. Just let me be with you and learn about you, and let us develop a deeper relationship. I see the Lord in the pasture with my horses, Princess and Ginger. The foal rears and bucks and zooms up and down the hills of the pasture. She runs around the shed, and each circle gets a little more confident and farther from the mare. She stops to put her nose in my hand, and also in the Lord's hand. She has such respect for the Lord. She knows him as her creator. The mare sees the Lord as no danger. I'm just watching how happy this makes Jesus. He is happy like I am happy. This is a beautiful experience to interact with his creation for him and for me. Thank you, Lord, for this gift of horses. This season with them has taught me so much. Responsibility, training, selflessness, determination to walk the 2 miles every day. Most of the time I spent with my horses, I was alone, but I never felt lonely. I see now that you were there with me all the time. Thank you for the birds, for the morning dove, and the breeze. You are in all those reminders. Keep me tender-hearted to these gentle reminders. Lord, I ask you to anoint me with your radiant presence. Your presence is the main thing that I need. In the pasture, I felt playful, but now suddenly I feel imperfect and sinful and unworthy. You can't spend time with God and not realize that he is God and I am not. Lord, I don't know what I need. Can you help me? Can you give me what I need? I'm a bit afraid you'll give me something I don't want, something I can't handle or control. I see a door ahead of me with a doorknob. I sense Jesus wants me to open it and walk through it, but I'm hesitant. I can't see what's behind it. I believe the Lord is good and wants good for me and wants me to open it and walk through. After I procrastinate a little, I open it, only to find Jesus' face looking back at me. His face is bigger than I expect. I can't see behind him, but I am happy to see him. As I review this, I feel again the sense of anxiety before I open the door. The promise of His goodness bolstering my faith, and I overcame my fear and opened the door. Then I feel joy and surprise when I see His face. I understand that my faith in Jesus' goodness has helped me to do what is good, right, and what His gracious will is. I recognize that when I open the door to the unknown, what is there isn't as important as who is there. God is the God of my memory, of my present, and of my future. I didn't see His face until I opened the door. Before I opened the door, I was relying on faith. But when I counted on Him, He was there. Okay. Now I'm ready.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Thank you, Father, that you are good, that you are present, even when we are fearful. As Cindy revisited this memory, as she opened that door and looked into your beautiful face, what do you have in store for Cindy today, Lord?
Lord, I'm remembering those feelings, the anxiousness, and yet the joy of seeing your face, the inquisitiveness of trying to look behind you into what was behind the door. I remember the bigness of your face. Lord, I know that you're with me every moment, and I thank you that you be here now.
As you stand noticing Jesus' face before you, just notice and describe what you see and how you feel. And have a sense of what might be in His mind and how He's feeling towards you.
I can see his face. He's looking at me, and his face is bigger than my face. And after I've opened the door, it's like I went, it's like I didn't expect to see him, but he showed up. He was there.
He was right there.
His face is a teaching face. He was standing with me on the other side of the door, instructing me to do something I was hesitant to do.
So just pay attention to that. What is it like to have Him by you, approaching something that you are hesitant to do? How does it feel? Notice what's happening to your body.
Feels hard. Feels like I don't understand why if I believe He's leading me down this path, why I wouldn't want to do what He wants me to do.
Can you describe what it's like to not want to do that? And see if you can experience that hesitancy in your body.
Yeah. Scared feeling.
Scared feeling. And just pay attention to that scared feeling while you're still connected to Jesus on the side of you. Is He on the side?
He is.
Yeah. Okay.
It has something to do with feeling responsible. Like, I want to live for the Lord and I want to do what is right. But my mother comes into my mind. She's been a good mother to me, but she's kind of going off into the realm of humanism, and she's divorced twice, but she's right now living with another woman, and they're practicing a gay lifestyle. And it's really hard for me to I've separated myself from her. And so I want to do what the Lord wants me to do. And there's a fear there.
There's that fear there.
Yeah.
And the fear is about, am I going to do it right?
Yes. Am I going to do it right?
Okay. Can you hold that on one side of you? That fear of, am I going to do it right?
Yeah.
And the other hand, and you hold the connection with Jesus. The Jesus that shows up when you open the door. The one that has this big face on his. It's more than you were expecting. And he has a teaching face, guiding you toward her. And just hold those two things. Experience on one side this connection and surprise. And the joy of that presence. And the other side, the fear. So Jesus, we ask you to just pour all that you have prepared for Cindy today. And stand with her to face this fear. And show her whatever you have for her today.
A few things just came to my mind. One is
just take your time. I'd rather you feel it than to report to me when you feel like you can do that, okay? Jesus, for your presence, for the way you guide and teach. Thank you for standing with us.
Thank you. Honor thy father and thy mother. The relationship is really strong here, and the relationship is broken.
Okay.
And here God is giving me dignity, and I'm not giving her dignity. But God understands that it's not what He intended. He understands my understanding that that's not what He intended.
He understood what you are, how you are at this place with your mother.
There's many times that I've had to be my mother's mother. And I think I'm reacting out of that as care and concern and worry. It's like I'm taking care of that. So
You don't have to be the mother to your mother.
no,
God will take care of that.
that's right.
You don't have to carry that care and concern and worry as a burden to yourself.
Yes.
How does that feel to hear the Lord say that?
I've heard it before. And it's true. And I'm grateful to be reminded again. It's a burden off of me. It's not for me.
So I just want you to just sit there with that fact that you're taking in this instruction from the Lord as truth. You don't have to do this role of being a mother to your mother. Leave it to me. I can carry that, and you don't have to. What does it feel like to let it sink into your body? What is it like to to feel this relief?
I don't have it yet because I still feel so burdened. And something missing.
That's all right.
I haven't put the box down. So
if the box, can you hold that box on that one hand? And then is Jesus still with you, connected strongly? You said
He is.
this is the God that gives you dignity, that is strong, connecting to me. Now, bring the box. See if you can bring the box and give it to Him. That's the box of being a concerned. Yeah, try and see if you can put two hands together slowly. And Lord, I just ask, as you instructed, would you also grant grace? Grace to Cindy to do what she desires most in her heart, to be in your will and do it right. Give her whatever she needs.
Lord, I'm setting this box down. It is a burden. I want to be free of it. And you know, I don't know how to deal with it anyway. I don't know how to understand it or control it. I'm turning away from the problem, and I'm turning towards you and seeking your presence. I don't know how you'll handle the box. You most certainly wouldn't handle it like I was handling it. And I'm trusting you with it.
Just take your time to notice what it's like to finally give him the box. Turn away from the problem. And then notice how Jesus responds to you.
It's like we're on a trip. And this is like we're on a trip, a travel trip. Mm-hmm. And this is just the first corner, the first step. But he's going to be there.
So as you turn this corner, is Jesus right there with you? Still?
Yes. I'm trying to look over his shoulder. I'm trying to see what's down the way, you know, and he's so big, he's blocking the door. And
it's blocking the way.
yeah, he's just saying, this is just enough. This is all. This is, I feel confident in his ability and his worthiness. I feel relaxed. I feel understood. And he knows this is a big, heavy thing.
He notices a
He notices.
It's a big, heavy thing. You
Yeah.
Describe a little bit what that is.
It's the box I set down.
Oh, the box you set down, okay.
The muscles in my neck feel so much more relaxed. You know, when you carry something,
Yes, I want you to just experience what it's like. Just notice what it's like to have your neck muscles all relaxed. And they're not tense anymore. As you take a deep breath in and follow this little oxygen molecule in your air and see if it will flow to that part of your body. Just follow the bloodstream. And just let this relief of the burden sink into your body. That it can get used to not having to carry that load. That you have confidence in Jesus' ability and worthiness to handle that. And you don't have to do that anymore.
there's a certain realization that comes with that, some action has to take place on my part to open that door again with my mother. And there's tension there. Mm-hmm. So it's like putting my hand on the doorknob. And now,
before we go opening the door, just checking if Jesus is still with you. You still feel that connection of confidence in Him. The one who say, you don't have to take that role anymore. So let's reconnect with that experience of His anointed presence that you so desire. Remembering that wonderful face that look out at you when you open the first door. It is His presence. Whatever door that He asks you to open, He's right there with you.
it's going to be there. It's like changing your perspective, because when you put your hand on the doorknob, you do it because you have faith in Jesus and you know it's the right thing to do. But it requires effort, something on my part. And that's where the fear and the scare and the anxiety comes.
Yeah.
Because I'm not remembering that when I open the door, I know what will be there.
And so now, refreshing that again before we go any further. Remember what it's like to just open the door. And the surprise you have was this huge face, and He's so big. You can't see anything beyond it. All He wanted you to see is His face. So just take your time and gaze at His face. Make contact with those eyes and look deep into them and feel what He is thinking, what he's feeling toward you. Just take that all in.
That expression gave me the response of, because I was surprised, but it wasn't a scary face. It wasn't something that was meant to scare me. It was a teaching face, an instructive face.
So I want you to just take the time to just feel what this teaching, instructing face made you feel. Take your time to notice. And notice your body too as you're gazing into his eyes. What do you notice about it, other than it being teaching?
He notices that I'm a very receptive student and that I want to please him.
He knows your heart, that you're receptive and you want to do what he teaches you to do. What is it like for God and Jesus to know you that well?
Wow.
I want you to take your time to just experience that wow.
There's some little shared moment about seeing evil in the world, and we're both sad by that.
Your heart with his heart, experiencing the same response as you view the world. The places that sadden Jesus' heart, sadden your heart and the Father's heart. So not only does he know your heart, you know his heart too. That what saddens him saddens you. Just take in that fact. Of those both hearts resonating, synchronizing.
There's a definite difference between our hearts because mine is weak
Yours is weak.
and he understands that I couldn't possibly understand evil like he understands evil.
He understands evil.
So it's just a little,
You just have a little glimpse.
just a little, only what I can handle.
Thank you, Jesus, for watching over Cindy, allowing her to experience a little evil, just about enough for what she can handle.
He's giving me a tender heart for my mother that I haven't felt for a long time. She's had a hard life. And she's so lost. She's so in need of him. But she's hurt me in a lot of ways. So I'm trying to protect myself.
Would you like to respond to Jesus as he gave you this tender heart of remembering that your mother had a very hard life, and she's very lost and in need of him? And yet there is this protection that you want to hold up because she has hurt you in so many ways. What would you like to say or respond to Jesus? And also communicate to him the places that is hurting.
Lord, I thank you for this tender heart towards my mother. I know that it could only come through you. And that evil in the world has touched her. Just like it's touched all of us. And I see her in her need. Thank you for being tender-hearted to my weakness and for being tender-hearted for her weakness. I see you, Lord, in her life. Not just my own. And I know you love her.
How is the Lord responding to you in that?
It's bringing to mind times that we've suffered evil together. But he's there, so.
When you say we, was it you and the Lord?
No, it was my mom and I.
Oh, okay.
I've seen these memories before, but he's there now.
Okay. Just take your time with that. notice the difference in how you feel now. You're looking at some very painful places, evil places, but Jesus is with you right there.
God is so good. And he's very big. And he's in all of these places at one time.
He's good and big and everywhere at the same time. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling thankful. I feel more bonded to my mother. One time she and I were driving down the road in our town, and my father was a semi-truck driver, and he was trying to run us off the road.
Able to describe what you feel in that car?
I was scared. And I was looking out the passenger side window and seeing the ditch. And I looked at my mother, and she was crying and screaming and trying to go really fast. And so she got ahead of him, and we were okay. And I thought, she saved me.
Is this one of those memories when you have also seen Jesus now?
He's in the car.
Oh, he's in the car.
And he sees it. He knows it was bad. And but I think times like that, I just put too much confidence in my mother.
What was it like to see Jesus in the car and making you know a little bit more? What did you experience and realize?
It's like he took note of it, and he understood the evil of it, and he sensed my fear, and he's held it all this time so he could bring it up today to touch it. He didn't forget.
He didn't forget. He didn't forget how scared you were and how hard it was, and what it was like to be touched by evil. How does it feel that he didn't forget any of this? And he held it all together in me until today.
He's done a lot more than just remember it. Because he's used it in my life so many times to share compassion, empathy. He's used all these times. He's smiling.
He's smiling. What is he saying through his smile?
That verse comes to me, that he uses all these things for the good of those who love the Lord. Not just for me, but for other people. That's pretty amazing. And so he's giving me a grateful feeling for that bad thing.
Gratitude for that bad thing.
That he can use anything, the good and the bad, and the confusing, in ways that we don't understand. Lord, I thank you for helping me, for being grateful that you could turn these bad things into good things.
How is Jesus receiving your thanks?
Kind of looks like a teacher after she's taught a successful lesson.
So he was very satisfied.
Yes. Yes. I am too. Lord, I thank you for that. Each person's difficult time just as paint in his paintbrush.
Each person's difficult times are just like paint on his paintbrush. And what did he do with yours?
It's like I can only see it from the underside. Lord, I thank you for these lessons and for this time. I thank you for Wai Chin. I'm grateful to be here. And you understand the effort it takes And you're pleased.
Lord, as we wrapped up today, is there anything else that you would like Cindy to take home with?
I just shut the door, and my mind backed up to him in the pasture with my horses. Those were good times. And they were bad times too. That's life, good and bad together. My mind backed up to the wanting to master and control, and things just change like sand. But his peace is always available just by being in his presence. And that's enough to know he's going to be behind the door.
Thank you, Jesus, for being the good teacher. Teacher who even knows how we learned. Thank you for always being there when you want us to open some fearful doors. Thank you for teaching Cindy faith. For creating compassion and empathy through the very bad circumstances that she lived through. Thank you for blessing her with a tender heart toward her mother, as she continued to learn from you what it is to love her despite her lost ways. How do you love? We ask even that you would teach her day by day. I thank Cindy, Lord, for her teachable heart, her receptive spirit, for her desire to do it right so that she can please you and the Father and glorify Him in all that she does and lives. Thank you for her horses, for the joy they bring to her, for a way that you show up to her as she plays with them, walks with them, and rides them. Thank you for those gifts of your presence. Thank you for knowing her heart. Amen.
Amen. Well, that was a trip.
Why don't we open the debrief this way? We'll take about a minute or two of just silence and just tune into the Lord and kind of notice what stands out to you or what He's impressing on you from the session. And we'll give you a chance to share that first, and that'll lead into our debrief discussion. So. All right. Who would like to share something that stood out to you? Comment, question, observation? Yeah.
Kind of to summarize just what I experienced this past minute of you had your two hands open a lot, and at one point one of them was your strong connection with the Lord, and then the other hand was your broken relationship with your mom, and it just seemed like in the memory, God was like bringing all three of you together and ministering. He's so cool.
I'd agree with that.
Does that sound good?
Yes.
I found I've observed that Jesus is not only a gentle teacher, but he's also a pretty firm teacher.
You mean, you noticed that in this session
Yeah,
today?
in the
or?
session, even just watching a little bit more of, he didn't just let her go, keep inviting her, the door, come and open the door. And then when she keep wanting to see what's beyond, he's like, I'm really big, right here. You don't have to look more. So there is that firmness there that feels good for me to know that God is going to stand his ground when if I throw my tantrum, that was that felt really assuring that I could, no matter how weak and how rebellious or how I don't want to go someplace, that God is going to stay with me and keep encouraging me.
I had two boys.
Yes.
One boy, you could just say, don't go any farther than the line, and he'd stop. And the other one would go to the line and look at me and step over, just to make sure that the line was still there. And it was reassurance. I'm like that. So it's good that I have this firmness. Sorry.
One thing that you had said is, I think I put too much confidence in my mother. And that rings a bell with me and some of what God is teaching me, even in the last couple of weeks, about where my confidence is placed. And I've always felt like I needed to know everything I possibly could know about a circumstance before I enter in, and that way I could be safe. And God is saying, no, put your confidence in me, and I can have a better conversation, and I can have a better outcome than any of your planned stuff. So,
Amen.
The picture of the door and his whole face filling the whole door. If he wasn't right there on the other side of the door, then you could see around him. But if he was way back there, you could see more. But he's right there.
Right there. But I had trouble remembering that when I was then going back to the door the second time to remember, okay, when I open it, he'll be there.
Yeah.
Because I was still stuck in the fear.
I think that's one of the neat things I noticed where Wai Chin did a very Immanuel thing, where in some other types of prayer ministry, you might go, okay, let's focus on that fear. Let's look at that fear, dig into that, figure where that's from. But she said, okay, stay with Jesus. Are you still aware of him? And as you did, then the next thing came, and it led into what happened next. So that was, yeah.
Good job.
Good job, Wai Chin.
It's a Jesus thing, right?
Let me see if I can find my notes exactly where that was.
A couple of times. When she realized she has some action to do, now that Jesus has said, I'm setting this box down, and I ask you to experience what it's like when you feel this relief. How is this setting inside? And it was in that whole experiencing, taking this whole truth in, the reality that I'm not carrying this box anymore, was the realization like, wow, I can be confident in His ability, His worthiness. I'm feeling relaxed. He understood where I came from. Oh, I got to open another door. So that was, I think, isn't that the transition?
Yeah, that was one, and then
Yeah,
when the
one
next
thing.
door came, it was that, again, that fear. Am I going to do it right? And you said, can you hold the fear on one side of you, and on the other, Jesus showing up when you open the door? You said a few things came to mind. At that point, you said a few things came to mind, and you started to talk, and then the emotion
fear.
just hit.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like that staying with Jesus is a lot of what allows the emotion to come, I think. Is that, I don't know how you experienced that.
That is exactly how I experienced that. And I'm really amazed that you out here could know that. You know, everything, you were so tuned into, now just what is Jesus thinking, or how does He look different, and what does that teaching look? And just drawing me just a little bit more to stay with the reality that, yes, he's really here. And that was really helpful. And to reiterate the feelings, you know, you're feeling this way, God is big, God is, you know, so it's good.
One thing that impacted me was that you, if I remember correctly, you were ready to reach for the door, like you were ready to reach out in obedience, and Wai Chin said, now before you reach for that doorknob, is that what you're talking about? Oh, am I just reiterating what you were talking about? But yeah, and Wai Chin said, it's kind of like, you know, have your ammunition with you.
Yes.
Before you. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great example of slowing it down.
Yeah.
Like building the capacity in the presence.
It was just a little bit different between being with me and giving me tools along the way. So that was very helpful.
And I felt like Wai Chin was kind of in a loving, almost motherly way, caressing the experience with the Lord, and like inviting the Lord to be intimate in the experience.
I'm curious how much of your spiritual director training plays into the way you facilitate.
Yeah.
There are a few times when I pray, I think some of that is not directly Immanuel, but I express thankfulness for how God did this and how Jesus did this, and I think that also helped with you. I'm experiencing gratitude for how God is touching and doing and guiding. And I think by reiterating those in a prayer, I didn't know, I was thinking that might also help you as a recipient to feel that thankfulness from a different perspective. I mean, you feel some gratitude, but I, as a facilitator, felt gratitude in the way God was caring for you, how Jesus was so tender with you. So I didn't know if that might be something that is not directly Immanuel.
Well, you were on my team, and that's how it felt. But also, I think because I felt scattered this morning, I thought, I'll bring in this. And so I think by going through that you have a tender heart towards me to start with,
Yes.
which is really great.
Yeah.
And I think last time when we were together and you were facilitating for me, it was a different, I wasn't allowing you to really,
Come closer.
yeah, so it was a good first experience so that you could say, okay, this is okay.
Last time, when you were talking about evil, I wondered, does this have to do with something you experienced personally? And so I was wondering, I wonder if that'll come up in some more sessions.
Yeah, and I would have never chosen to go there.
Right.
But it's like, okay,
Yeah.
we'll go there.
And it's okay that you didn't go there that first session, but.
It's kind of interesting how,
It was just another trip, right?
yeah, it's like when you're in the car and you think, okay, I could turn down that lane or this lane or that lane, and you feel like you need to go down one street, but you're hesitant to go there. So they're just quiet. And then you think, okay, I'll just go down the street, you know.
I thought it was really beautiful how she reached the point of, if this is the correct word, like satisfaction, satiation, where you said, thank you, Lord, for this experience, and you drew it to an end, and you knew that
I
there
couldn't
was
go any
closure,
farther.
that there was closure. Some type of closure.
Yeah. Even when she said, and if there's anything more, I could see that door shutting, and I knew that the brakes were going on, and I could be thankful. Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely a progression or a development of safety with the facilitator, safety with the Lord, safety with the prayer ministry, and you've got a lot of people watching, and I know there's one person that has shared with me recently that it was the last January, she was doing a ministry session and up came this big black space, like it was like a door opening into black, and she knew it was really hard, painful memories, and she's like, I want those fixed. Jesus, I want those resolved. And Jesus said, not yet. And 6 months later, finally, the door opened and she was able to go with Jesus because he knew the right timing. And so that's part of the process too, I think, is like you guys have been saying and you said, is just developing, cultivating that sense of safety and the capacity, the relational capacity to be able to go to those painful things. So
That is actually one of the distinctive of the Immanuel approach, in that you can trust that until capacity is built, Jesus don't take you places that you're not ready for.
and part of
Even
why,
though you might very specifically, like, task-oriented, like, I want to get that all taken care of. Which is like me sometimes.
Yeah.
That one off.
Yeah. Right, can I just check that off and I'm done?
It's kind of like the feeling of having him remember some of these things that I haven't thought about for so long,
Yeah.
and that he's bringing it up at this time, that he didn't forget.
that was a really beautiful moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I shared just with the bride, you said how you look at the memories differently. That's part of the healing. It was very special to hear that.
Yes.
Because we know that the word says it's all for good. And we all experience certain evils or, sins or issues. And we don't always know how the Lord gets to that place. But this was, we could think we with you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Do you want to, I don't know, it's up to you how you respond, but would you want to share a little bit about how the memory is different with Jesus there, or how some of that your experience has changed as you've discovered him in those places?
I remember when I would remember these things in the past that I would feel hate. Like I'd hate mostly my dad, and that feeling is just a word now, that word hate. But when hate kind of comes up from your toes and it kind of just chokes you, and that's just totally gone. So it's like I saw Jesus in the den this last week in my childhood home, and he was understanding everything, all the things that were going wrong. And I just saw him standing inside the door, and I could see everything that was happening from his perspective and how everybody is operating from, evil, pushing different ways, and I could just see it for what it was. And it was like, well, yes, he wasn't acting like a good father then, and he was disappointing, but there's so much about his own upbringing and his own childhood. And so you can see the whole picture, not just what happened in that incident.
Thank you.
I know in Immanuel, the whole concept of capacity is incredibly important. And I guess I noticed you were doing a lot of reflecting back, what Cindy was saying. I guess my question is, when you are doing that reflecting back, is it also building capacity? Or did you sense that, Cindy, that as she was reflecting back to you, did you sense, or what was that like for you as she kind of reflect back?
Well, for me, it was time. It was slowing things down. It was reiterating the lessons that I was learning. I don't feel like so much it was building capacity. To me, capacity is when Andy Ross had me look for a memory of gratitude, and I just started with the horses, and I just played there. I just played, and I've never played with Jesus before, so I was like, he had fun with me. And that's capacity, that's learning trust and relationship.
So that sounds like as you keep revisiting that memory, then your capacity continues to grow as you are continuing to revisit that memory.
Yes, and he took me someplace else, once I had that base, and I reconnected with him, and we revisited the door, and then it's like, okay, now we're going to go a little bit farther today.
The reflecting back is keeping the person connected.
And attunement.
Yes, I was going to say, I think attunement is a big part for the recipient, knowing that the facilitator is getting where they are.
So maybe that's not increasing capacity, but maintaining capacity.
And both capacity and connection, both to
Because I would say
each
you're
other.
not going to have capacity unless you have connection.
Right, yeah. So,
And I think you're right. One of the things we talk about is part of the facilitator's presence is about the augmented capacity or the increased capacity we have when there's someone else with us. So in that sense, yes, our capacity is increased when we know someone's really with us in it, whether that's Jesus or the facilitator or both. So, yeah. Some of you haven't said much yet. You don't have to, but is there anything you want to ask or add or?
Can I just, what you just said I think is so important, because I probably wouldn't have gone down that road unless I had that, what you were just talking about.
companion.
If there hadn't been good attunement that you had experienced for many, many minutes, it wouldn't, I just wonder if it might not have even come up.
Right.
Because you just would have not felt that.
That's interesting, yeah.
To look back and see where Jesus was with you and that truck thing, it really hit me. That's, and in all things, first I hold on to every day, that in all things God does work for our good. But to look back and see that, and this, even as you're saying that, it brings back things that Jesus actually carried me, and I didn't really realize that.
Right.
Positive triggering, right?
I think also how her compassion for her mother, that the capacity to have compassion rather than frustration or whatever feelings you will have with your mother. That to understand her, I don't know how to say it otherwise, but I think that we saw the compassion growing.
Yeah.
And that was beautiful because then at the end you were a team and you were sticking together at the end. Where at one point you were kind of opposite and kind of in opposition.
One thing we've talked about in past live demo sessions in other years is the power of forgiveness. And it can be really important to choose to forgive and verbalize forgiveness. But one thing we often find with Immanuel is as we start to be with Jesus in those memories and see what was influencing the people involved and, maybe the hate goes and we start to see them through Jesus' eyes and see what led into that evil and have that tender heart. Sometimes the forgiveness happens without any official process. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And many times people who have been a Christian for a long time, and forgiveness has been something that's been taught over and over again, and they would come to me and say, well, I don't know how to deal with this, please. I said, I usually would say, can we just set that aside for right now? Because forgiveness is a choice that you make, but forgiveness is also a fruit of healing. And sometimes the choices you make, you're making choices when you don't have capacity to make those choices. You might intellectually choose to do it, but emotionally, if you don't have capacity to do the thing you choose to do, it actually isn't done. So I usually would actually work with that person to say, let's put this aside for right now. Let's see what Jesus will do with the part that is wounded. And when that connection takes place, like what happened here, we didn't even have to go down that road at all. Empathy and compassion begin to flow because you're beginning to see the people who have hurt you through his eyes. And usually it means that why did they act the way they act? And looking at their history their behaviors does not excuse what they did. But by understanding why they do what they do, it brings compassion. And then it brings empathy.
Here's an example of that, if I can get through it. I had a Immanuel Prayer experience where a memory was brought to me from my past. And in the memory, which I hadn't thought about for 50, no, not that many, but I'm not quite that old. 40 years maybe, I haven't thought about this. And my grandma, my father's mother, had come to visit, and I found out later that she had come to visit to testify against my mother in a court of law because my mother had a black eye, and she went and testified that my mother ran into the cabinet and got a black eye, when all of us knew that my father gave her the black eye. And I was like, how could she do that? When I found out, I was so devastated. And it was kind of at the final part of a divorce, and I never saw her again. And I never saw my father again. So it was like, I was so hurt that an adult didn't do the right thing. And that just was crushing to me. And I never really paid too much attention to it all my life until I had this prayer with Immanuel, and Jesus took me right back to that prayer and to that memory, and he was right there, and he saw how wrong that was. And he attuned to me, that he understood my perspective. Nobody cared about what I thought. And immediately, the first thing that came to my mind was, I need to forgive my grandma. Because he understood what it was like. My first thought was, I need to forgive her because it's not right. I've been holding a grudge, all these years. And it was such an easy transition. She's long dead, but I was able to come to the place where I knew what the right thing was because this block was taken from me.
To me, that speaks, like Jesse, you were talking about having compassion towards the offender, like understanding something about their background. But in this case, it was actually the validation of your pain.
Yes.
That actually,
Yes.
so it seems like those are the two ways, I think, that can free us up.
It's interesting because as time went by and I was a young mother, my mother reconnected with this woman, even though she testified against her in court, because my father was a kind of a tyrant and would have killed her. I mean, so she was like doing it because she, at least that's what my mother said. And I can't always believe everything my mother says. But that would give me the information that should allow me to forgive her, but it didn't help at all. It didn't touch what I was dealing with. And this moment with Jesus was all it took.
This is the first time I've seen this live, but I really like the point where Cindy said, I have to do something. Because it's easy to get to the point of, like you said, understanding. But when you know that you have to do it, and you're saying it to somebody else, that's what we're supposed to do.
It's really interesting, I think, in Immanuel Prayer because, like Wai Chin was saying, sometimes we can choose with our will to act, and yet we consistently don't follow through on it because there's something inside holding us back. And freeing that up allows us to act according to our will and choice and what we know is right. There's other times when consistently acting in a way that we know is right, even when we don't feel like it, begins to bring up the internal stuff and allow that to be resolved or changed. And so there's this interesting interplay where both are necessary at different times in different ways, yeah.
I thought it was, this is back when you were holding the box, because you didn't talk about the size of the box, but all of a sudden, when you started realizing that your neck felt so much better with a big box, I just thought that was really interesting that you were so aware of, what was going on with your body. And I couldn't hear all of what Wai Chin said, but did you ask her about what was going on with her body?
Oh, yes, I was
Okay.
telling her,
All right.
feel what it's like to have this off, and then breathe into that place. I did a little bit of that to help you get in touch with your body.
But that was a pretty big box. It was good. That stood out to me.
Weight off your shoulders, literally.
Yes.
Yeah. So Wai Chin, let me ask you, as a facilitator, what was this session like for you?
I was pretty much zoned in here. I don't really knew you were out there. I am on the trip. I was, it's interesting, not only that I was on her team, like I'm walking with you, but I also have a sense that I'm with Jesus inside of me, kind of a thing. So there are a few times when the things that he said was like, just when I had a thought, that was exactly what she repeated, kind of a thing. So it was, yeah.
So you were having your own Immanuel experience?
I was,
With you?
yeah, I was hearing him in like the next thing he's about to do, or he's about to invite, or I feel like, oh, I need to ask this next question. But it was very much, there is a point I could was it you who said, Wendy, how this is slow down, play by play? I literally is, every single time she talk about something, I focus on how does that feel? Where is it resonating? Can you notice what's happening right at this moment? Until she finished that, she takes and she say the next thing, then I stay there again and I do that again. So I do realize that was a very, I knew we have time.
And I'm like, oh, good, we can just melt this, and we just stay in that place. So
That was nice.
it was good. Yeah, I love it when you do, when you have a full hour of that.
Cindy, what was it like for you to be facilitated by Wai Chin? You responded to this a little bit already.
It was very comfortable. It almost felt as if I knew you from someplace else, like you were Jesus. So it's I felt very safe. And you have a way that you'll have your way. So because I felt safe, it was okay to go with you.
Thank you.
Was there anything you all noticed that you thought, oh, that was a good question, or that was a moment that was really significant?
I was wondering about the box, like when, like you felt like you wanted to put it down and then it felt like Wai Chin kind of more told you. It felt directive to me, like to put it down. Did I hear that wrong? Or did you need that?
It's kind of what we talked about at the beginning, but there was some confusion there because I wanted to put it down, and I indicated I was going to put it down, and she said, now just enjoy that feeling. I said, but I hadn't done it yet, so no, I'm not there. So she said, okay, so she backed up, and then we went at it again, because I knew I should put it down, but I didn't actually do it, because I'm thinking, okay, when I set it down, he needs to pick it up and do what I think he should do with it. You see, but I know that when I set it down, he's going to handle it his own way, so.
That's one place I had marked also, where there's more than one direction to go as a facilitator sometimes. And in this case, Wai Chin was tapping into what Cindy wanted and what it seemed like the Lord wanted and just inviting her to do it. As a facilitator, if you notice hesitation, or if it seems like someone wants to do something but isn't quite ready, another option is to just say, okay, I'm sensing a little hesitation, or are you noticing any hesitation to setting that box down? Are you aware of what that is? And then bring that before Jesus. Because sometimes there's sort of a couple layers to the process. And so each moment of hesitation kind of removes one block or one layer of being able to really freely give it without it being a big effort. So, yeah, I mean, it worked to do it that way, but there are other options too.
After she knew that I really didn't put it down, she did say, okay, let's focus on that. What is that? And I said, well, it's fear, and I'm scared. And
Was there anything, excuse me, was there anything that you felt like where Wai Chin was out of tune or could have done something more helpful?
just that one time when I said, well, I haven't actually put it down yet. You know, it's like, you're assuming I did, but I didn't. I could have not told the truth, but.
Jesus probably would have brought it up again.
I think so, yeah. It was the difference between a sweetest massage and a therapeutic massage. This was a therapeutic massage because you know that Wai Chin is going to direct you. And I was totally confident in that, and she made me feel so comfortable that I said more than I would have thought I would have said. And yet, it's totally okay, because I just really trusted the situation and her guidance.
Is that fair?
Thank you.
Therapeutic massage.
This kind of feels like we're approaching an end. Are there any other questions or comments you want to ask before we close?
I still don't have a feel for why anyone would do this, or why you would spend here on a Saturday morning to learn this skill. So can you fill me in?
You're here.
I'm the benefiter.
I was amazed at my first session too, because it was such a selfless, I don't know, it was Debbie, just a selfless thing, just sit for an hour and just listen and put everything you think of aside, everything. But we need this as a body to become the bride of Christ. We need to be healed to share the good news. We need this. So we should share the news.
Iron sharpens iron, so.
Wow.
Yeah, in that, along that same vein, it's kind of like group therapy. When one person is working on their issue, other people get healed also, even if they aren't directly talking or involved.
It kind of reminds me of the difference between just writing our gratitude prayers and speaking them to a triad.
Yes.
You know, there's something about hearing our other sisters or brothers. It edifies the Lord.
I'll tell you, my favorite part about facilitating and observing alike is those moments, not just when Jesus meets people in pain, because that's really profound, but to me, the best part is when someone has a moment where Jesus is so good they can't quite take it in. Like, why would you be so good to me? And they get grace at a deeper level than they've ever gotten it before. And to me, that's the most beautiful thing. And God does that in so many different ways and so many different times. I love when he meets people in pain too. But there's something just that opens up my heart every time I experience that too. So thank you for being willing to be the one up here. Excuse me. Yeah.
When you first started, you were with the horses and you said all the things it taught you and, you know, really how you had benefited and that you loved little foal and mare and all that stuff. At the end, you said, he's playing with me. So it was good at the beginning, but it was so much better at the end.
Yes. I think one of the reasons why doing a group, even just listening to this, one of the things that is in Joyful Journey talks about the amplification of the effects when you have a mutual mind. And mutual mind means that you are synchronizing, you are experiencing the God that she is experiencing at the same time. And it amplifies the effects for the community. And it definitely is indeed the thing that to do, because I have, even when I just had an experience, I started some lifestyle groups. And we had a couple of people in there that always have difficulty connecting at all. And the miraculous thing is they not only connected, they weren't even memories. It was like right there, that person connected with Jesus in a whole new story. And then that story continues throughout the next week. And Jesus doing some new things from that sort of the starting point. So it's just been exciting for me to actually I've heard that, I've read that, and then see that happen in community that way. So I've been encouraged by that.
Well, why don't we close our time in prayer? So thank you again, Cindy. Thank you, Wei Chin.
Yeah.
And let's thank the Lord. Father, thank you for these two women here. Thank you also for Cindy's mother and the tenderness that you have towards her. Thank you for Cindy's heart, and I ask that you would continue to give her eyes to see the way you see, heart to feel the way you feel, especially towards her mother. That she would be able to do what's right, and also not have to control or carry that box. And Lord, I pray for each of us in the way that you've touched us today, that you would continue to deepen and strengthen our experience of you, and to be able to share that with others, as Lonnie said. Lord, as we go from here, help us to be even more aware of your presence. You are so good, so faithful. Your love never fails. Thank you. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you all.